son Ian even brought me orange juice. They wanted to make sure I had everything ready for my big interview today.
Oh, that's nice of them.
Yes, we're like a barangay, a village here in our apartment building. We like to make sure that everyone is well and that all our needs are met. I especially appreciate it because I'm not young anymore, if you cannot tell. I was born in 1927. My birthday is December 12th, just like Frank Sinatra, one of my idols. We're both Sagittarius. What is your astrological sign, Evangeline?
Oh, Virgo.
Ah, just like Troy Estefan. You know, Evangeline, I'm a very good singer. I know a lot of American songs. Not just by my idol Frank Sinatra, but Nat King Cole, Elvis Presley, the Penguins. Oh, you must know these artists.
I know the others, but I'm not so sure about the Penguins.
Okay, I will sing one of their songs for you. Earth angel, will you be mine, my darling dear? Hello? Jimmy? Yes, the interviewer is here now. Okay, thank you. Bye. See that? A barangay. Okay, let us start the interview.
All right, I just pressed the record button. Would you please introduce yourself, Lola Gregorio?
My name is Gregorio Yasai. I joined guerrilla in September 1943 and became New Scouts in 1946.
It's okay, Paul. The recorder is really good at picking up people's voices. You can sit back comfortably. Lola Gregorio, would you please explain what it meant to be a guerrilla soldier during World War II? Because, well, for some Filipinos, the word guerrilla has a bad connotation.
The guerrilla soldiers were made of many of Filipinos who were never in the Philippine Army or even the U.S. Army, except those who escaped the Bata and Death March and joined them.
How are you recruited?
Pearl Harbor. It all started there. And the following day, December 8th, remember December 8th, they attacked the Philippines. I was 15 years old. I was at my high school at that time, and my principal and teachers were knocking and saying, "Everybody out!" At age 15, you're just playing. You're attending school, you do not know anything. And then they were already able to get some news on the radio. The Japanese have invaded the Philippines. Hello? Lisa? Yes, Jimmy called me already. Yes, the interviewer is here now. I have to go. The recorder is already on. Okay, thank you. Goodbye. Okay, where was I?
What happened after you left school that day?
So, when we went home, my father was already preparing everything. He said, "Hey everybody, go to the mountains. We have to because of all the atrocities we've been hearing about being committed by the Japanese army." That's what he said. My mother was pregnant with my sister at the time. They said we have to go, and so we did. I have a grandmother. She owned property in the mountains. So that's where we lived. We did not know when this war would end.
So, when were you recruited to join the guerrillas?
It was about 2 months after that. It was about midnight. We heard a knock on the door. My father was the first one that immediately noticed. "Who's that?" he said. So I opened the window and I saw that my grandmother's house was surrounded by people. Some civilians and some were in uniform. I thought they were Japanese. Remember, we did not have electricity, so it was dark outside, except for some fireflies by the mango tree. They kept knocking, so my father was good enough to go down and meet them. My father was surprised when he heard them say, "Mr. Yosai, how are you?" They knew my father. They were guerrillas. And so my father invited the captain up with a few others to the house. There was also a lady guerrilla, a very beautiful lady with him. People may not know this, but a lot of the Filipino women were also involved in fighting against the Japanese army during the war.
Thank you for that. Not a lot of veterans have talked with me about the women soldiers.
Yes. Okay, so back to my story. So the guerrilla soldiers, they said, "Please, we need you, Mr. Yasai. Please, you have to come." My father said, "No, I cannot because I have to protect my family." That's what he said. And so it was almost 2 hours already that they had been discussing. That's where I came in and said, "Tatay, Father, what if I go instead of you?"
You volunteered as a 15-year-old?
Yes. My mother said, "If you go, you might die. But you feel excited, you want to join them." And so my father and mother were talking and finally they agreed. The greatest of my family, and so my father trusted them all.
After high school, I saw Filipino generals recruiting for the Philippine Army, so I volunteered to become a soldier instead of going to college.
I was about 20 at the time of the war. Mostly everyone ran through the mountains, but I was a merchant. I would buy and sell fruits and vegetables from one place to another. Then, one day, during my travels, there was this man who rode with me. He was a guerrilla soldier, but he did not tell me at first. We talked a lot during our ride, like the weather and where I get my produce, and even religion, like what we think about where souls go after they die. We became friendly. Then he admitted he was a spy, and he was on a mission to record the military movements of the Japanese. He said that many of them would be sent, but no one would come back because it was such a dangerous mission.
I became Yusufe in 1941 or 1942 when the U.S. President called the Philippine Army into service to fight against the Japanese Imperial Army.
It was a rough time. Getting whatever was available, like papayas and other fruits. Even insects like locusts or grasshoppers. We also watched and flight the birds and where they landed, because then you could find food there.
Are you familiar with the Filipino term albulario? It's a traditional healer. The word came from the Spanish word herbalario, herbalist in English. Some people do not believe they are real or effective, but they are very important in our culture. When I was a child, an albulario told my parents that I would live a long life. So, I joined him on his mission. I would pretend to sell vegetables to the Filipino families and even some Japanese so my companion could observe. Then we would report to the headquarters. That mission was in July 1944. Well, what happened in October 1944? MacArthur landed in Leyte. So I really believe the reports we wrote were valuable for the assessment of MacArthur.
The Japanese landed in Pangasinan at Lingayen Gulf on December 22, just a few days before Christmas. Under MacArthur's order, we withdraw to Bataan. I remember hearing the news that the Bataan Peninsula and the island of Corregidor were the only remaining strongholds in the region, so I tried to stay strong. I was praying on my 22nd birthday that God, please help me stay alive. I want to start a family. I want to be a good husband. Sometime in March, MacArthur left for Australia and he gave a speech and he promised, I shall return.
Me, I got malaria. I had a high fever. I was also shaky. My body ached. I could barely walk, even hold the gun. I kept trying, but my commander dismissed me. I could no longer continue the fight. But God killed me eventually.
We held off the Japanese army for 3 months, but we were so tired, we were running out of food. I lost so much weight, I looked like a toothpick. In April, our U.S. commander in Bataan, General King, met with Japanese Army General Nagano and surrendered. April 9, that was the day Bataan fell into Japanese hands.
I used the Japanese language, so I picked up learning as a merchant, so I was able to communicate with the Japanese soldiers. I even had passes from the Japanese military police stating how I was a good citizen, so we were not suspected at all. But our luck finally ran out.
April 9 is a national holiday here in the Philippines. Araw ng Kagitingan, the Day of Valor. That day is when the Death March started.
We were jailed separately, so we could not see each other. We could not hear each other. I was younger, so my torture was lighter.
I like sharing my stories so that my family will remember me when I'm gone from this world. Are you okay with death and blood?
So they burned my arm with tobacco. Then they placed salt on the wound. They asked me where we'd gone, and I shared some information, but not all, or else other comrades would be visited and jailed. Then they heated the metal and put it on my legs. You cannot see them, but until now, the scars are still visible. My hands and legs were tied up, and a bamboo pole was placed between my leg and back. Have you ever seen how a pig is tied to a pole? They told me to lay down. They sat on me. Then they put a cloth over my nose and mouth, and they did water torture to me until they were content with my answers.
You see, there's a few of us left now. The man who survived the Death March.
We walked from Mariveles, Bataan, to the rail in San Fernando, Pampanga. I heard that during the march, some Japanese soldiers shared food and cigarettes with some Filipino and American soldiers, but most of what I witnessed was brutal.
They forced us to sit out with some cowardly handcuffs. They gave us very little food and water. Some of the food they gave us was already spoiled.
To survive, we drank water from ponds, but sometimes there would be bloated bodies floating.
Then I was taken to a monkey house where the other prisoners